This episode of the Cult Popture podcast was brought to you by our rippling abs. Rippling abs.
Nipple.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nipple piercings and shit.
Naked person.
Talking about like sexuality.
What is going on? All right, so that was a little remix, our first ever audio remix.
Yay!
Richard sent in to us by our mate Sam Page. You know, if you want more, then just hound him to make more of
Fuck,
those.
that is something else.
He sent it to me, no context, and I was like, yeah, I'll put this on the episode.
It's so funny.
Yeah, so hey everybody, welcome along to film franchise Fortnights on the Cult Popture podcast. My name is AJ and I'm joined by the wonderful, the beautiful, the sexy Richard Martin. How's it going, Richard?
Good.
Yeah, hell yeah. I've got a question to open the episode with, Richard.
Okay, I wasn't prepared for this, but let's go.
Yep, here it is. Richard, do I make you horny? Do I? Do I, baby? Yeah. Do I make you randy?
Oh, behave.
That's right, everybody. If you couldn't tell by the name of the episode, the thumbnail, or just any kind of basic knowledge about the show, this week the franchise that we are covering is the Austin Powers Trilogy. This was chosen by our patrons over at patreon.com/cultpopture. They choose every second franchise we cover on the show, so that's one franchise a month. And this was the last Patreon pick for the year, Richard.
Aww.
Oh no! And they picked Austin Powers, which is interesting because you have a couple of times said that you'd love to do the Austin Powers trilogy on the show.
Yeah, I have said that.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, like, I feel the Patreon picks end up being the better episodes now because they're picking, like, ones we've kind of been hoping we'd get for a while, which is, maybe that's a universal experience. But, you know, we cherish doing our randomly selected ones as well because that kind of...
Yeah, we don't have another randomly, like, between now and, like, very long time from now, we only have, like, one.
Exactly, because we got some plans. This is also the second to last film franchise Fortnights of the year. We'll be doing an FFF break. So we'll still be releasing weekly podcasts, just not FFF.
But it's like you only end up missing like one or two episodes, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So calm down.
You know, you could almost say there's better stuff instead of that, or just as good, because, you know, off weeks are just as important as franchise weeks. So if you've never seen it before or you don't know anything of what we're talking about, the Austin Powers trilogy is mainly a parody of the James Bond films, or at least the tropes of the James Bond like genre of spy films. So there's a bit of, that's not solely James Bond, it's just mostly James Bond.
Yeah.
The series follows the time-traveling exploits of a 60s swinger spy named Austin Powers and his various attempts to thwart the world domination plans of a supervillain named Dr. Evil. The series stars a myriad of actors you've probably heard of, including Mike Myers, who plays most of the characters. Seth Green is also in this. Vern Troyer, probably his most famous role. Michael York, Robert Wagner, Mindy Sterling, Elizabeth Hurley, Heather Graham, Beyonce, Michael Caine, Rob Lowe, Carrie Fisher, Fred Savage, and Will Ferrell often gets left out of the discussion.
I thought you were going to leave him out, and I was like, I had him on the tip of my tongue ready to go.
He's there.
Will Ferrell.
He's in the first two movies, and he probably gives one of his most, not necessarily his best performances, but it's a character you usually just see him playing Will Ferrell, and he's playing like a kind of different Will
he's
Ferrell.
playing like a weak character.
Yeah, which is interesting. So there are, of course, 3 films in this trilogy. They came out between 1997 and 2002. So we're in a very recognizable era that these films came out in.
Yeah.
The first film was called Austin Powers International Man of Mystery. So that came out in 1997, directed by Jay Roach. And that has a score on a website called Rotten Tomatoes, which correlates what critics think of movies. Rich, I don't know if you're familiar with Rotten Tomatoes.
I am. I know quite a lot about Rotten Tomatoes.
You probably
may
know
I
more than
wager
me.
a guess?
Of course.
I'm going to go 73%.
A little high, it's on 70%.
Oh, okay. That's very,
So-
very close.
Yeah. Could you tell me what Austin Powers International Man of Mystery is about?
So Austin Powers, he was from the 60s, got frozen, so did Dr. Evil, and then it's them adjusting to life in the 90s while also, fighting each other. And what's Dr. Evil's big plan in this one again?
Is it to... I don't know. I'm going to have to look that up.
Because, they're all very similar. They're like tractor beams and laser beams.
Is this the lasers? Yeah, it's is it to blow up the moon? No, that's the second one. Let me look it up. I guess another thing to...
these are kind of... The plans are kind of inconsequential. That's why we don't remember. It's not because we don't we didn't watch them.
It's also important to note that that the character of Austin Powers is like a very sexually liberated character who, he has a lot of female compatriots, and I guess the other notable thing is that he's not conventionally attractive.
But everyone's... it's like his charisma and his sexual energy that he gives off that makes him super attractive. He's dating Elizabeth Hurley. Well, he's with Elizabeth Hurley, and she's the one that thinks she doesn't deserve him. And this is peak Elizabeth Hurley as well.
Yeah. So Dr. Evil's plan in the first film is pretty simple. It's not as cartoony as the other two. His plan is to steal nuclear weapons and hold the world hostage for $1 million. Which he then changes to $1 billion when he learns the value of the dollar has fallen due to inflation. It's good stuff. All right. The next film that came out was called Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me. That came out in 1999, also directed by Jay Roach, and that also has a score on Rotten Tomatoes. Where do you think we're falling here?
Let's go 60.
It's on 51, so bit lower than I think I expected personally.
Yeah.
But what is this film about?
So in this one, Dr. Evil travels back in time to steal Austin Powers' mojo, baby. Which essentially is his sexual charisma. And then he
extracts it from the frozen body
from when he
was
frozen. And then he wants to blow up the moon as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
And I guess other notable things that would happen in this movie is it introduces Mini-Me, played by Vern Troyer, who's a clone of Dr. Evil, but 1/8 his size. And it also introduces Mike Myers, who plays Dr. Evil and Austin Powers. He also plays a third character in this film called Fat Bastard, who's a grotesquely obese Scotsman who is like a weapon for hire from Dr. Evil.
And sounds like Shrek.
He sounds a little bit like Shrek. I do think there is a difference between Shrek's voice and Fat Bastard's voice. It's not quite as... Maybe it's just in the personality as opposed to the voice. Because Shrek's a lot more gentle than Fat Bastard. Fat Bastard eats a baby. Well, we don't see it happen, but he certainly wants to eat a baby. So, rounding off the trilogy in 2002, we had the film Austin Powers in Goldmember, also directed by Jay Roach, and also has a Rotten Tomatoes score. What do you think this is?
Let's go. I reckon still in 50s. 54.
It is 54, so higher than The Spy Who Shagged Me, which I feel doesn't reflect what I understood the general consensus to be.
Really? Okay,
but
that's interesting.
I guess this is the general consensus.
Yeah.
So, what did you like them? What is your favorite, and how would you rank them?
Do we need to explain what Goldmember's about?
No. Yeah. No. Do that.
So same old shit. Dr. Evil's got an evil plan, but now there's like a new character, also played by Mike Myers, called Goldmember, who's like this Danish guy, and also Austin Powers is like reunited with his estranged father, and then turns out Dr. Evil and Austin Powers are brothers, and Beyonce's there.
The plan is to blow up the polar ice caps to flood the world, unless they give him 1 million gazillion trillion dollars or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What else? Goldmember is he Danish or Dutch? Is there a difference between? I think he's Dutch because they talk about the Dutch in this film.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, exactly. And he's obviously a parody of Goldfinger from the James Bond films. So his calling card is he'll spray paint the people he leaves alive. He'll spray paint their genitals gold. And he himself he lost his genitals in a tragic smelting accident, and now has a gold member, hence the title. We also see, so in the first one, you got, as you said, you got Elizabeth Hurley playing the Bond girl. In Austin Powers: The Spy Who Shagged Me, you got Heather Graham playing I should say love interest, not Bond girl. And inexplicably in Goldmember, we have the comedic powerhouse that is Beyonce playing. Playing
the Lion
Bond
King
girl.
2019's Beyonce.
Yeah, and Michael Caine, of course, playing Nigel Powers, Austin Powers' father. All right, as I said before, Richard, his Faja. What is your favourite? Do you like these films? And if you could rank them, how would you?
So I had a bit of a weird experience watching these. Because I've always, for so long, I've been like, yeah, man, I can't wait to do Austin Powers. Like, it's going to be such a good franchise to talk about. They're so funny. They're such fun. But then watching them, I was like, these aren't really that good. And then
Interesting.
I was like, yeah, I mean, I can see the appeal, but they're very of their time. And they're just like, I was like, oh, yeah, here's another character played by Mike Myers. And
wow,
yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of tired of it by the time. And they, like, don't get me wrong, I still like enjoyed it and had these laughs and whatnot. But it wasn't like I didn't come here today like with pages of notes ready to talk about it. I'm just like, oh yeah.
Well, I did. So here we go.
But in terms of ranking, I'd probably go same as Rotten Tomatoes. I think 1 through 2.
Nice. I find it, as I said before, I find it interesting that Austin Powers 2 is the lowest critical score because I think that's my favourite one. I think because of the inclusion of Mini-Me and Fat Bastard and Heather Graham being like the one that gels with Austin Powers the most. Because Heather Graham's the only like comedy actress out of the three. So I think she gives off the best performance. With that being said, I do think Goldmember has the best cast. Other than like so if Goldmember opens with
this is
a movie, a film within a film based on Austin Powers' life, where Tom Cruise plays Austin Powers, Gwyneth Paltrow plays the love interest named, what's her name in it? Dixie Normus. And then of course Kevin Spacey plays Dr. Evil, and Danny DeVito plays Mini-Me. So that's pretty. And it starts out real
Steven
strong.
Spielberg.
Yeah, it's directed by Steven
and
Spielberg.
scored by Quincy Jones.
And Britney Spears.
Yeah. The thing about that though is like it's so fun, like seeing Tom Cruise as Austin Powers, and it's just like, you know, showcases that Tom Cruise has a sense of humor and things like that. But then then it's like this big reveal that it's Gwyneth Paltrow, and I'm like, I wouldn't really put her like above these movies, you know?
No, yeah, agreed.
And then Kevin Spacey, Danny DeVito, and Steven Spielberg, it's all like, oh, they managed to get these, but it's like, if you told me Gwyneth Paltrow was the love interest in the third, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's beneath her.
But also, interestingly, on that same kind of vibe, I feel like getting Michael Caine to be a main character in this film was probably more impressive than the cameos. Because I love Michael Caine in this film, because I feel like I can't remember another Michael Caine role that's like comedic.
Yeah.
You know, and he does a great job. He really like dives into it.
Yeah, there's like, because there's like a flashback as well, and to like him watching a car explode, and it's just like a clip from I think The Italian Job, and it's it just randomly cuts to like 35 mil footage.
Yeah.
In the middle. It's so funny.
Yeah. I also really like Mini-Me's character progression in this film because he changes sides in this, and so instead of a mini Dr. Evil, he becomes a mini Austin Powers and puts on a little costume, and
His wee little boots.
it feels very good for a third entry in a series to like play with because I feel like The Spy Who Shagged Me had the biggest cultural impact with Mini-Me, and so it's cool to be able to do something with that character. That being said, I did think, as I said before, I think the third film's probably the weakest, personally. I think I laughed the least in Goldmember, and this is a weird thing to point out, but the story didn't feel as tight as the other two, which, like, it's Austin Powers, so how tight does it? Toit like a tiger. Yeah. I think you had a different experience watching these films to me, and I watched them with my brother and my sister, and my sister had no patience for them. I watched the first two, with my brother and my sister. Sister had no patience for them. Me and my brother were just cackling at everything because it felt so nostalgic, kind of like to see these jokes again.
Yeah, I think if we'd watched them together, I probably would have enjoyed them more.
Right. Because I would regard Austin Powers as one of the most consistent trilogies we've covered. Like,
I don't necessarily disagree with it.
Yeah, they're not necessarily the best movies ever, but if you like the first one, I can't imagine you having a problem with the sequels. You know, like I can't imagine the conversation where someone's like, "Oh, it really went off the rails after the first one," because like, what about the first one was especially, you know, what heights did the first one reach that the sequels didn't manage to get there to?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I really like trilogies. I think trilogies are like the holy grail of franchise types because they're very often ruined by a belated fourth entry. You know what I mean? Like, there aren't enough trilogies in the world, or at least I think there's something satisfying and inherently like sensible about doing 3 parts of a story.
Yeah,
Maybe it's like the rule of threes or 3-act structure.
I think there's too
like
many
that.
trilogies.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Well, them's fighting words. The Austin Powers trilogy is interesting as well because it kind of obeys the rules of the trilogy set up in the Scream films.
I did want to talk about this.
So we've discussed this with a couple of other franchises, but basically the Scream films, they set out rules for what each entry in a series should do.
Specifically for horror movies, but we have found them applicable to others.
Yeah. Especially the third film in a trilogy is often cited as exploring the origins, going back to the beginning, and that definitely happens in Austin Powers 3.
Hell yeah.
You see his father, you find out him Austin and Dr. Evil are brothers. You see like them in high school at one point where they're played by different actors playing younger versions, and they do a real good job. Good, I think this might be one of the best franchises for younger versions of, like, casting younger versions of characters, because the college age versions of Austin and Dr. Evil are great, but also Dr. Evil's like henchman is named Number 2, and he's played by Robert Wagner, but in the second one, when they go back in time, he's played by Rob Lowe, and I was like, yeah. Rob Lowe is a young version of Robert Wagner. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he's doing quite a good impression of him.
Yeah, exactly. What did you have any more thoughts on the Scream rules that Austin Powers
it's just interesting because they do the thing of like, the second one goes bigger, like they go to the moon and shit like that, and so it's definitely like upping the stakes. And then the third one bringing it full circle. Forget everything you think you knew.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up the moon as well, because long-term fans of film franchise Fortnights will know that like one of our oldest recurring themes is us talking about, it feels like it was me talking about it.
It was you.
Sequels are in space, you know. Ace Ventura in space was my second ever continue the franchise idea.
Space Ventura.
Yeah, Space Ventura. And throughout doing however many franchises we've done, we'll be nearing 100 by this point, won't we? Or have we already?
No, we've been nearing like 50.
Right. I think we've crossed 50, haven't we?
No, we're past 50. It'll be like about 60 at the moment.
Okay, well, in that time, I've learned that there aren't that many sequels that go to space as I thought. But hey, Austin Powers joins Jason X and Hellraiser Bloodlines as one of those films where a sequel goes to space because that's what you do in a sequel, I guess. All right. So, do the Austin Powers films did they? It sounds like you weren't that fussed with them watching them as a 25-year-old, but as a kid, were they very special to you? Did they fill a special place in your heart or anything like that? Like, when did you see them? What was your experience with Austin Powers growing up?
They were one of those movies that like I wasn't sure I had seen all of, you know?
Yeah.
And then for ages, like I don't remember a time when I sat down and watched them all until like now. But I had watching them now, I definitely had seen all of them, the whole thing before.
Nice. My main memory of Austin Powers was when I would have been like 8 or 9. My mum went away for the weekend, and Dad was like, "Oh, should we get out some movies your mother wouldn't enjoy?" And we got out Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, and we must have watched it like 2 or 3 times when we got it out from the video shop, because I feel like I've seen it a lot of times, but don't know when else I would have seen it other than that one weekend when my dad got it out for us. And so that was experiencing a movie that until that point had seemed, I would have classed in my young child brain as being just as inappropriate as like watching American Pie or anything like that. But
yeah, I think that was similar to me. That I thought they were too explicit for me when I was young, and it wasn't until I was older that they're quite PG-13 despite being racy.
They're very tame, even though like the conceit or the basis of the Austin Powers series is way more sexy than something like American Pie, you know? Like,
yeah, well, I mean, like, one of the films is called The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Exactly. That being said, do you find the series particularly sexy?
Well, what do you mean? Like, I there are certain scenes and
I guess
and actresses that I find sexy
for sure. But I guess because I watched the second one. Sorry, was the first one I saw. I watched it before I'd like developed into an adult or anything like that. I find them too funny. Like, I don't find them in the same way like watching American Pie as a teenager was a bit like, ooh, you know, we know why they put this scene in the movie. Whereas watching Austin Powers, it kind of feels like it justifies every like sexy thing it has in it for the sake of comedy. It doesn't feel like it's trying to sell the movie through including superfluous sexual stuff. And maybe that's because they're PG-13 that it's right away you know that it's gonna stay true to being a comedy and not just try sell tickets by putting
because you've said in the past that you struggle to find things sexy when they're funny.
I think Scary Movie would be another example where you're right that like I don't particularly find the sexual scenes in the Scary Movie series all that sexy because they're so silly and stupid, but I think it's different in Austin Powers because in Austin Powers, it's like, this is integral to the character. So, of course, the things surrounding him would be sexy as well. But because there's things like machine guns coming out of boobs and things like that, it feels like it takes away any chance of these, like, implanting in your brain as, like, something that, you know, would awaken your sexuality.
Implant?
Yeah. So I think that's interesting that I don't know if you felt the same way. It's not like watching American Pie when you're a teenager and being like, oh man, that scene is so hot.
Yeah, well, because American Pie is interesting because it is funny, but they keep the sexuality pretty separate from it.
Yeah.
But like, kind of by the time you get to like Book of Love and stuff like that, it's very like, the line is way more blurred, but it's like, all right, here's the scene where they commit a felony by recording this girl without her knowing, and it's real hot. And then, you know, here's the scene, oh, Stifler's going to drink some cum, you know?
Yeah, exactly. There's like things that are sexy and things that are sexual but gross. And Austin Powers is the same. There's a lot of gross out stuff in Austin Powers, and I feel like it doesn't, as much as American Pie, separate those two things. They're kind of
well, just like the entire character of Fat Bastard.
Yeah, exactly.
Is like gross out humor, and it's like I said to you while watching these, I wish someone would create a cut where they just cut out Fat Bastard.
Did you?
I just hate that character. I don't find that character funny.
Oh no, I did.
or anything. I just like, it just grosses me out, and it doesn't appeal to me in the slightest. And
Right.
yeah,
Slowly deletes pages of notes about fat bastard.
that
Another thing I think that we owe it to the podcast to bring up is it'd be very easy to see these films as like really offensive by today's standards, and something like we took in American Pie. In the American Pie series, there's a lot of things that wouldn't fly today, and same with Hangover and Revenge of the Nerds. And while I'm not going to say Austin Powers is squeaky clean, there's some good heart in these films. Like there's a scene in the first one where Elizabeth Hurley is trying to sleep with Austin, but she's drunk, and he's like, "No, it's not my bag, baby. I don't," And I was like, interesting. He harasses his female co-workers in every film, but at the end of the day, he understands consent in 1999, which is,
Yeah, it is. And it's funny, like, just talking about the films with you, I'm like, oh yeah, I love that bit more than
awesome.
when I watched it.
I'm glad to be
which is
changing hearts and minds.
they're those kind of films that you like. Yeah, they probably are just more you need to watch with people and be in the right mood for and stuff like that. Because I did enjoy them, but they just weren't they didn't blow me away as much as I thought they would. But yeah, it is that there was nothing where I was like, oh, can't say that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think. Whereas movies from like 5 years ago have shit like that, like in movies that don't particularly deal with like sexuality and like womanizing kind of characters. You get those like, ugh, but there's not really any in these, which is weird.
As I said, the most egregious thing you see the heroes in the Austin Powers series doing is like spanking a girl as she walks past or something like that. But it's like, first of all, he's literally from the 60s, and the first film is literally about a fish out of water 60s character in the 90s. So I'm not going to say it's okay, but it explains it, and it puts context around it.
Yeah, and it's like maybe it'll be a fun continue the franchise even, but bringing him even further into the future.
Exactly.
And seeing how he'd deal with being on a college campus in 2018.
Well, Richard, if we were coming to the end of this episode, this would be a great time to segue into continue the franchise, but we are miles away, and so the next little headline I've got written down here is I feel like this series is the ultimate, this is where that's from series.
Okay.
So many jokes. So watching these movies as an adult, like, it feels like Austin Powers is not only one of the biggest influences on like my sense of humor, but our entire generation's sense of humor. Like, so many lines and jokes, like, and they fucking permeated our zeitgeist.
Oh, Jesus, that word of the day calendar is really paying off.
I've used zeitgeist before.
Permeated.
We're talking about permeated. I've used permeated before.
Never together.
It was too much together.
Too many syllables, no.
Yeah, but when I was a kid and right through high school, I feel like people quoted Austin Powers all the time, and there are obvious jokes that are specific references to the series when someone says them.
Yeah,
baby. From Austin Powers. Yeah, baby, and do I make you horny, baby? Or even like, I shall call him Mini-Me, and like, Dr. Evil is like, anything he says, you put the pinky up to your mouth, and everyone knows what you're saying. But like, and like, Mini-Me feels like a relatively common term for like the obscure thing it's referring to as well.
Well, that's because that's what you used to call me at broadcasting school, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah. Well, I don't think I called you it. It was more a joke that I don't think I even made it up. I think someone else
it's
said.
Mini-Me who's bigger than me.
Yeah, older than me. I'd never say you're bigger than me. I wouldn't do that to you. There's also things like air quoting, like laser. I know you can't see it that I'm doing it.
Well, you're not doing it.
It was. You just couldn't see it in the webcam. So laser and magma and sharks with frickin' laser beams and tractor beam, that kind of thing. I feel like a popularized air quoting. And I think the biggest thing I thought was here in New Zealand, where we don't have a Chili's, the baby back ribs jingle is far more associated with fat bastards singing it than the actual fast food chain. You know, like people are like, I want my baby back, baby back, baby back. They're doing a Scottish accent, and in New Zealand, no one knows what a Chili's is.
That's interesting because I associate that with Scrubs.
Oh, true. Yes. Yeah.
Because Ted's band sings it and they never say ribs. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's also things that aren't. There are jokes where I'm like, is this the first time this joke was ever said? Like, there's a joke in, I think, the second film where he's giving Heather Graham's character Felicity Shagwell a massage, and he's like, "How's that, baby?" And she's like, "Ooh, lower." And he goes, "How's that, baby?" Did Austin Powers invent that joke?
I think so. I mean, that's if you see that joke to me, I'd just associate with that.
What about in the first one when he's in the spa with a lot of vagina, and he farts and bubbles come up, and he goes, "It was not me, it was my food. It just popped up to say hello. Now it's gone back down below." Like, that, if someone says that now, you're like, oh, wow, you're a child, because I heard that 100 times when I was a kid. But is that from Austin Powers? It's not played ironically.
No, I think it is. The way he says it is very quotey.
Yeah, right. So you're saying he didn't make it up?
Yeah, I'm saying that it's like he's quoting a playground rhyme.
Right, okay. The other one was in the third one, Nigel Powers says, there's plenty of these, but these are the only ones that come to mind. Nigel Powers says, "There are only two things I hate in this world: intolerance of other people's cultures and the Dutch." Which, again, I heard that 100 times in high school. Well, with whatever other culture you wanted to replace with Dutch. But I think it's from...
Well, yeah, using culture and Dutch, obviously is exclusive to this. But I think there's only two things, one, and then something directly contradicting the first one. That's an old joke. That's an old format.
Right.
But it's interesting. I think talking about how these defined a generation of comedy. I think Austin Powers is kind of like, I mean, it's not really different generations, but it's kind of like the previous generation's Borat of thing that would be quoted for a decade later, and everyone's like, he's still fucking. It's not.
Totally.
You'd have people in 2009 being like, "Yeah, baby," and it's like, that movie's 10 years old, and you still get people now that are like, "My wife," and it's like, oh my god.
But there are a lot of jokes in it that are pretty good. Even they don't feel that dated. I love it when Random Task, who's the Odd Job parody, he takes off his shoe and just throws it, because Odd Job throws a hat with razored edged, but Random Task just throws a shoe and it hits Austin. He's like, "Oh, who throws a shoe? Honestly."
That's great.
That's funny.
Random Task is great. What's his personal life like?
I'll tell you, Richard. That's actually so Austin Powers kind of joins Beethoven and The Land Before Time and Snow Buddies as being one of those movies we cover where something pretty horrible happened behind the scenes. So Joe's son, who's the actor who plays Random Task, is currently serving a life term in prison for torture.
Yeah.
That's kind of worse than murder. It's more sadistic, at least in general. He tortured a young woman in 1990, and he went uncaptured until 2008, when a DNA match linked him to the crime. According to the victim, she unknowingly had a copy of this movie in her home until her attacker's identity was revealed. In 2017, he was sentenced to an additional 27 years for murdering his cellmate.
Yep.
Good lord.
This happened, so he was in the film 9 years after he did it.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show you can do whatever you want. It will catch up to you eventually, but you can have a pretty good life in between.
You can be a famous, well, not famous, but you can, be in.
You can be in the Austin Powers franchise, whether you're Joe's son or Kevin Spacey.
But I wish this series had more now maligned celebrities or actors in it, just so it could be like a fun little like, what the hell is up with the Austin Powers series? Why is it like
you commit these atrocities, appear in an Austin Powers movie, and then lay low for a while.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite jokes?
Yeah.
I think I wrote this thinking you liked the series more than you did. So I was like, oh, we'll talk about our favorite jokes.
Nah, I can easily talk about my favorite jokes. There is one from either the second or third film that I remember thinking like, oh, this is one of my favorite jokes. I need to write this down, but I didn't. But my favorite joke is from the first film when Dr. Evil is in like a group therapy session and he's talking about his father, was his adoptive father, and he says, my father would make ridiculous claims like he invented the question mark. And that's my favorite line in the entire franchise.
That's a fantastic monologue that he does.
Yeah, the whole monologue is amazing, but that's my favorite line.
I really like the visual joke of Austin trying to get out of a hallway in like a forklift thing, and he keeps doing 3-point turns, and it like cuts back to him, and now he's like completely horizontal. That's so good, man. That's so funny. But I've always really loved the joke in Goldmember. And I've always misquoted it, and the version in my head feels funnier than the actual version in the film. I think I might have mentioned it on the pod before when we weren't even talking about Austin Powers. But in the third one, Dr. Evil reveals his plan to blow up the moon. No, to melt the ice caps as a satellite called Preparation H.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I didn't know this till my dad pointed it out when we watched it. But Preparation H is like an anal cream.
Yeah, it's a hemorrhoid cream.
Yeah, and Scott, played by Seth Green, who's Dr. Evil's son, who's like real sarcastic and doesn't have time for Dr. Evil shit. He's like, oh yeah, why don't you just call it Operation Ass Cream? And Dr. Evil's like, what, you want some ice cream? And he's like, yeah, I want some chocolate ass cream. And Dr. Evil's like, perhaps later. I love it so much because it's not like, it reveals the depth of Dr. Evil's character. His mind's going so many different ways per minute that he's actually legitimately able to pause his evil monologue to be like, okay, we can like have ice cream later. You know, he's answering him completely. He's not like being like, we're not talking about that now. And it's kind of like vaguely around. I think I remembered it as him wanting to bond with his son. So he's like, all right, we'll get you ice cream later. That'll be fun. But like, he doesn't really like his son, so it's more like a
Seth Green is a great character.
Yeah,
like his delivery in that scene is great as well. When he's like, "You ass,
you ass."
Chocolate. He's called Operation Ass Cream. You ass. It's interesting as well. There's so many jokes that I'm like, I just do not find this funny. Like, because I remember like when I was an intermediate, people would be like, get in my belly, and I had like no idea what it was referencing, and it's like maybe that's part of the reason for my hatred of Fat Bastard, but I have like distinct memories of people being like, my Vinky was the key, and it's like when Goldmember reveals that his penis is a key.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like, oh, this is just so not funny. And because I used to like any film that was like vaguely adult themed, I wasn't really allowed to watch. So I'd never seen like Austin Powers, like Team America, but I was able to piece together from everyone quoting them enough that I could have seen the movie. Like people are like, oh, Team America, what was your favorite scene? But oh, the sex scene's so funny. And I didn't see the movie for like another 4 years, but I just knew that everyone thought the sex scene was real funny.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I kind of like Fat Bastard just because of I don't know what it is about the concept of a giant man eating a baby. But that's, and like he tries to eat Mini-Me, and he says he doesn't want the money, he'll just take Mini-Me so he can eat him.
Yeah.
That's like, I ate a baby. That's another line that feels like everyone was quoting.
Yeah, I think that also the thing with Fat Bastard is that he introduces like toilet humor to the franchise when there isn't really any other.
I got bigger pieces of corn in my crap.
Yeah, and like Austin Powers unknowingly drinks a cup of shit. And it's just
I'm sorry, I just find all these things are classic to me. When we were watching the second film, my dad like walked into the lounge and he was like, what's going on? And we were like, oh, we're watching Austin Powers 2. And my brother was like, do you remember when you got this movie out for us, Dad? And he went, no. And I was like, oh, it's like one of my cherished memories. And my dad doesn't even remember doing it. Yeah, so I would say the comedy in these films interests me because it's silly, right? And it exists in like a hyper-realized reality, but it's not like the anything goes nature of a lot of spoof movies. It still has its own grounded
Rules.
place.
Yeah.
It has its rules. So like comparing it to franchises we've covered, I'd say it fits somewhere in between Scary Movie and Ace Ventura. You know, because Ace Ventura is like one silly character in a serious world.
Right, yeah.
And Scary Movie is all silly characters in a silly world. Austin Powers is like the middle of those two.
Yeah,
You know?
it's like a few silly characters played by Mike Myers in a in a heightened reality.
Yeah. And it's like the characters were sucked into a James Bond movie, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, now it's time for randomly placed useless statistics and/or trivia.
Yay.
I can't remember what we call this segment, but it's kind of funny to have a segment that changes title every time we bring it in.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready for another complicated way of explaining something, like from
No.
Final Destination?
No, can we move on?
No, we're stuck here.
Damn, you tricked me.
Baby. Yeah, babe. What can you do impressions of them, of the characters?
Of what characters?
All four.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Evil.
Mini me.
Me.
My belly.
My belly.
Isn't that weird?
Oh yeah, that's a keeper. And he like peels the skin off his scalp
yeah.
and like eats it. Oh, I love it. You're just gonna. Please don't eat that. Oh, and you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just check my freaking balls for a second. 1, 2, and 3. All right, we're on. It's so good. It's so good. I don't know. I think Dr. Evil. I'll get more.
Yeah, Dr. Evil's my
Dr.
favorite
Evil
character
later.
for sure.
Absolutely. So the Austin Powers trilogy is either our 12th or 13th trilogy, depending on how you count it, because Pup Stars has since graduated to 4 films since our last trilogy, which was Toy Story. However, being that this number also includes, so this is if this is our 13th trilogy, you also have to include the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy, even though we covered that in an episode alongside Webb's amazing Spider-Man films. You could argue that because we covered Pup Stars as a trilogy, it still qualifies as a trilogy we've discussed. And if you don't count Pup Stars or Spider-Man, then Austin Powers is our 11th trilogy.
Yeah, I think also we're not 100% on Pup Star just yet because it has changed its title to A Puppy Star Christmas. So it could be more of a spin-off. We don't know yet.
We'll find out on the next episode of Film Franchise Follow-Ups, which you can find on our Patreon. This is our 5th trilogy, in which one director has directed all 3 films. This is significant, as we said in the Scream episode, because this doesn't happen a lot. So the other films that qualify for this are Pup Star, The Hangover, the Red Curtain trilogy, and Back to the Future, who are all directed by Robert Vince, Todd Phillips, Baz Luhrmann, and Robert Zemeckis, respectively.
Yes.
This is our 2nd franchise, which contains a character who is either based off or played by Donald Pleasance. Donald Pleasance played Dr. Loomis in the Halloween franchise, and of course Dr. Evil, if you didn't know, is heavily based off Pleasance's portrayal of Bond villain Blofeld in You Only Live Twice. Everything you know about what Dr. Evil looks like is Blofeld in one film, in one James Bond film, not multiple. He's got the scar and the one. Why no? Does he have a bad? No, he has a bung eye in Spectre, and he's got like the scar along his face, and he's bald, and he pets a big fluffy cat.
Yeah. Also, I did just another note on the trilogy thing that Sam Raimi also did an Evil Dead trilogy, but then there was another film added to it,
which is actually, I think they say it's actually set in the same canon, so it's not really like a universe reboot. It's more just another story being told. So I did think of Raimi for Evil Dead, but because there's another Evil Dead movie, it didn't feel right to bring that in. I did think of mentioning that, so thank you for bringing it up.
That's okay.
So speaking of Halloween, as we just were, this is our 3rd franchise in which a character has been played by or is named Michael Myers.
Yeah.
So Michael Myers obviously being the lead villain in Halloween, and Mike to his friends Myers played both Austin Powers and Shrek, which are franchises that we've covered. And this is the second time we've watched a franchise in which one or all of the films in the series are a straight up parody of another franchise before we've watched said franchise it is a parody of. The first being Scary Movie, which parodied Scream, and Austin Powers is obviously a parody of James Bond, a franchise which we've yet to cover, but we probably will someday.
Yeah.
That feels like one we have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Last statistic for now.
Yay.
And this whole episode.
Okay.
This is our third franchise in which which is well known for featuring a single actor playing multiple roles. The other two being the Medea series and the Nutty Professor. And if you count Professor Julius Kelp and Buddy Love from the original Nutty Professor to be the same character, then this is the first franchise which features a single actor playing multiple roles in which the actor is a white man. If you do count Julius and Buddy as different characters, we also have to bring the Mask into this statistic, because I feel like then Stanley Ipkiss and the Mask are different characters, and so you know that's not really the spirit. Like the point is that they're not intrinsically related characters being played by the same guy. All right, so while we're talking about the characters, I think even though these movies were directed by Jay Roach, they feel like Austin Powers, Mike Myers is the.
They feel like Austin Powers movies.
Mike Myers is like the brains. It feels like behind it. He invented the characters, and man, he is so talented, dude. Like he does such a great job. Each film opens with him doing like this amazingly choreographed dance, and while some of it is like obviously a stunt double, and they kind of don't try to hide that, he's still doing enough like synchronized swimming and dance moves and stuff where you're like, Mike Myers like knows his shit, and he knows why he's funny. You know, like the way he like flinches when he sees someone like a sexy lady walk past, or like the way that they all like walk. I'm doing the actions and you can't see them, but
I can see them and I appreciate it.
There's a music to the way Mike Myers plays his characters, like the actions he gives them, and like the way like Dr. Evil like because what do you think the pinky to the mouth? What does that even mean? You know, because it's hard to explain.
Surely it's like based on someone he knew or like some other performance. I mean, it has to have been a parody of something, right?
It has. I found a few things that are like different talk show hosts and friends he knew and stuff, but nothing like definitive, because what I love about that is it's not a character trait I would think of adding if I was writing a villain like Dr. Evil,
right?
Because him placing the pinky to his mouth is almost like he's so overcome with excitement or arousal or so proud of himself for like something specifically evil that he said, that it's almost like a Tourette's tick. Like it's like it's like someone being like clapping their hands when they're excited, basically. You know? It's like, ooh, and like it's like involuntary that his pinky reaches his mouth. It's what I'm saying is like Mike Myers is so good at playing all of his characters that despite the fact that you're in a comedy, you don't really think. You can't really recognize each character as all being Mike Myers, especially Austin and Dr. Evil. They look very different from each other and act very different from each other.
Yeah, it's a testament to his ability.
So Myers has stated a few times the different influences for Austin. There's a whole bunch of people who said it's based on this person or it's based on this person, but I think this following quote sums up best the inception of Austin Powers. He says, Austin Powers is everything I watched on TV in the late 60s. My parents were from Liverpool, and there's no more English than an Englishman who no longer lives there. Every molecule of British culture that came across the Atlantic was tasted and worshipped. I think that's really cool, because I was going to do a whole thing about how, an English person couldn't play Austin Powers. There's got to be an American who's observing English stereotypes from afar, who's able to exemplify them. But this actually makes way more sense that he is an Englishman. He's a second generation.
And I mean, like you look at like what's his face, Michael Caine's performance.
Yeah, exactly, and that's another one. I didn't write it down, but apparently there's like a thing called there's a movie called The Ipkiss Files or something that Michael Caine was in, and Michael Caine's character is very similar to Austin Powers. I don't know what that means. I haven't seen it. I'd be very interested to see what a Michael Caine version of Austin Powers looks like when he's being like serious. He's in like a serious movie. But yeah, I think that's what it's called. So as we said before, Dr. Evil.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yep.
I have just looked at the Ipcress file film.
Ipcress. Oh, yeah.
And it says the film and its sequels were a deliberately downbeat alternative to successful James Bond films. So how many sequels are there? So because we might bloody need to add this to our thingamajig.
Wow. And then that could also count as being the film that parodied the franchise we watched before the franchise it was parodying. If we watch Ipcress before.
Yeah, the Harry Palmer films. There's
how many are there? There's like 38.
So there's the Ipcress file, Funeral in Berlin, Billion Dollar Brain, both starring Michael Caine. Then in the mid-1990s, 2 further Harry Palmer films were released, this time with original screenplays and with Michael Caine returning to the role. Bullet to Beijing and Midnight in St. Petersburg.
That sounds weirdly like prolific for something we'd never really heard of until now.
Yeah. And with Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Oh, I'm Michael Caine. And then...
Right.
Yeah, Caine's portrayal of Nigel Powers spoofs Harry Palmer, it says.
Yeah. In the economy of celebrity voice impressions, is Arnold Schwarzenegger worth more than Michael Caine at the moment, or?
What do you mean, like in the street cred you get for doing it? Or?
Yeah. I feel like Michael Caine's a harder accent than.
I feel like they're both hack kind of accents.
Low hanging fruit. That's kind of what I was meaning. So yeah, as we kind of touched on before, Dr. Evil. He said he's your favorite character. He's probably my favorite character as well. He's the most fleshed out. He's definitely the funniest, and I think Mike Myers probably regards him as the funniest. He seems to have the most fun playing Dr. Evil.
Yeah, because he's almost the straight man to everything else as well, which is great. Like his moments, like the perhaps later, is like when he's the only one that realizes what's going on, kind of thing.
Please don't eat that. Oh, and you did. All right. Yeah. So. This is interesting because did you know, Richard, that Myers originally sought Jim Carrey to play Dr. Evil?
I did know that, but thank you for bringing it up.
You're welcome. His initial plan was not to play multiple characters in the series. Carrey was interested in the part, but had to turn down the role due to scheduling conflicts with Liar Liar. Did he make the right decision? Not for Austin Powers, but for himself.
Yes, I don't think we would have gotten a franchise if he'd played him. Because Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura 2 is the only time he's done a sequel. Up until he did Dumb and Dumber, but for so long he was like, I'm never like playing the same character twice.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, and I think Liar is a great movie, and Jim Carrey owns that role, and also it's a better choice for Austin Powers.
Yeah, of course. Cool. So we've talked a bit. Did you have anything you wanted to say about Dr. Evil?
He's evil. Don't trust him.
Don't do it. We've talked a bit about the comedy of the Austin Powers movies, but
let's talk more about it.
I want to quickly discuss something that I don't really see discussed about Austin Powers much, and I looked on the internet for about 2 minutes to see if anyone else mentioned this. And this is the first. The third film is about a guy who wants to reconnect with his dad, and it's very easy. Like, it's an easy character arc. It's not particularly complex. Yeah. I didn't really pick up on anything in the second film, but there's a weirdly sincere moment in the first film, which, even though it's like a surface level comedy, it almost feels like Mike Myers or Jay Roach or whoever has like an underlining message that he's trying to say to the world, and it never really gets talked about. And this moment is towards the end of the film where he's chasing Dr. Evil. Austin's chasing Dr. Evil, and he kind of justifies or explains the swinger's lifestyle and what he's learned through the events of the film. And I actually had to download the movie, rewatch the scene, and write down the line so I could get it right. So these are if you've forgotten, this is the dialogue between the characters.
Okay.
And I will be doing impressions of the characters.
Oh, thank God.
Right, so Dr. Evil says, "Isn't it ironic? The very things you stand for, free love, swinging, parties, are now in the 90s considered to be evil." I did the pinky thing. Austin replies, "No, man. What we swingers were rebelling against was uptight squares like you, whose bag was money and world domination. We were innocent, man. If we'd known the consequences of our sexual liberation, we would have done things differently. But the spirit would have remained the same. It's freedom, baby, yeah." Then Dr. Evil says, "Face it, freedom failed." And Austin goes, "No, man, freedom didn't fail. Right now we've got freedom and responsibilities. It's a very groovy time."
Nice.
Yeah, so I guess it's just intriguing to me that the moral of Austin Powers is about how if swingers or if people who were advocates for the free love movement were alive in the 90s, they would be more responsible, because I think the film kind of critiques the idea of like not non-monogamous relationships.
Right, yeah.
Right? Because Austin has to sleep with a lot of vagina, and it upsets Elizabeth Hurley's character, whose name I can't remember right now. Vanessa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Austin, we all knew.
Such a good joke, right? So I just think it's a very specific thing to want your movie to say. You know, it's not like the moral is free love is great, or like everyone should love each other. It's the radicals in the 60s, while their behavior would nowadays be considered off kilter. I am sure that mindset actually came from a place of fighting the power and would be more in line with our sense of morals today than what you may think. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right, okay. I think the reason you haven't seen much about that is because you're looking very, very far into this.
Well, I don't think so, because
which some would say is an admirable trait.
And is the point of the podcast as well, somewhat.
Yeah. No, I'm not disparaging it, AJ.
Good.
I love you.
Because the film I love you too. The film kind of grinds to a halt because he's chasing Dr. Evil, and then they pause and have this moment, and then Dr. Evil goes, "There's nothing worse than an aged hipster," or something like that. So yeah, what do you think, commenters? Is Austin Powers saying something?
Ugh. They talked about sex on their podcast. I'm literally unsubscribing.
All right, we talk about titles, baby. Yeah, a lot on this podcast, and that's what I wrote down. That's the title of the segment. We talk about titles, baby. Yeah. So I don't have much to say in terms of what I think of the titles, but there is some fun trivia that I'll get to. So I guess if I was to be pedantic, I'd say it'd be nice if the first film had a 007 parody as its subtitle, like the other two, but at the same time, International Man of Mystery almost feels optional, like Birdman and the Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, or Borat and the Kazakhstan, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
The thing is, I always struggled to differentiate between the first and second one. Like, I could never remember which was which.
Yeah.
For some reason, Goldmember feels like the third one, but the first two felt inconsequential. Because Goldmember, like the title, refers to what's happening in the film, so it's easy to remember. Whereas the other two are just kind of arbitrary.
Yeah, I think as well Goldmember. I remember when Goldmember came out, whereas the first two Austin Powers movies feels like they were always out.
Yeah.
You know, they'd been out for eternity. I guess I also wrote down, I wrote this and I was like, don't write this. No one cares, but here it is anyway. I guess I would have preferred if they'd stuck to either colons or the word "in" for the sequel, because the first two are colons and the last one's "in." I kind of like that. "In" better. And Austin Powers "In the Spy Who Shagged Me," I think is better.
Yeah, I think Goldmember's a great title. Because it's like, The Spy Who Shagged Me, almost feels too dirty, depending on like how important the word shagged is where you live. But Goldmember's such a great title because it doesn't feel dirty until you see the movie.
Yeah. Well, you're right that shagged is a bit of an offensive word, because the title proved controversial in the United Kingdom where the word shag is very coarse, I guess. So commercials for the film would sometimes cut the title depending on what time of day they played.
Jeez.
Like it'd go like Austin Powers, the spy who.
Wow.
It'd cut off. There are also 2 variations of the poster. One of them which asterisked out the middle of the offending word. So it's like the spy who bleeped me. Which is that worse? You know?
Yeah, because you can you replace it with something worse in your head.
Yeah. And some other posters had the film named Austin Powers 2. According to the Collins English Dictionary, the use of the word shag in the film's title actually helped increase the word's acceptability, reducing the shock value and giving it a more jocular, relaxed connotation. So I quite like that. I think it's pretty cool.
Good on Austin.
And we
Free
don't
love,
often
baby.
we don't often talk about this when we do talk about titles, which we do a lot, but there are some really interesting translations of this title in other countries. So the Singapore considered a title change to The Spy Who Shyoked Me. Shyok means to feel good. The Norwegian title of the movie is Spoinum som spermet meg, which is a slightly dirtier way of saying the spy who ejaculated on me. The German title translates to Spy in the Secret Missionary Position, which is very good.
That's a very good title.
And in Croatia, the film's title translates to The Spy Who Groped Me.
Okay.
Which we're not...
Wouldn't fly today.
Yeah. In Brazil, it's called The Spy Good in Bed.
Just The Spy Good in Bed.
Yeah. And in conservative China, it's called The Spy Who Liked Me a Lot.
Are you serious?
Yep. Gold member, while it wasn't, because I think member is a very uncommonly used word for
male
penis.
genitalia.
Yeah. There wasn't too much trouble around it, but it did lead to legal action being taken by MGM, who are the distributors for the James Bond film franchise. Obviously, because Goldfinger, Gold member, it's a parody, but it should without question fall under parody law. But this led to the title being removed from promotional material and trailers. The dispute was quickly resolved, and the film title remained unchanged on the provision that the film would one day. The film would include trailers in its cinema releases for the then upcoming James Bond film Die Another Day, which The Spy Who Shagged Me is a better film than and The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
Yeah, speaking of trailers as well, I remember there was a trailer for this, I think it was the second film, that was because it came out in 1999, and it was the camera is slowly zooming in on a darkened room on a spaceship, and it's like, if you see one movie this year, see Star Wars, but if you see 2, see Austin Powers.
Yeah. That's great. Now we're going to have a little brief segment, Richard, of dumb IMDb trivia.
Yay!
A segment that was very recently popularized in our viral Toy Story video that we never returned to since. So,
here we go.
So one of these is written poorly, and there's 2 of them. One of these is written poorly, and one of them just makes me feel dumb.
Okay.
So
because it's too smart, or because it's so dumb that it rubs off on you?
You'll find out.
Okay.
So the first one, this is verbatim. What I had to read. It took me like a minute before I realized it was dumb IMDb trivia, because it's vaguely intriguing. But then I was like, oh, hold on, it's saying nothing, and it's written so poorly.
Right. Okay.
So this is verbatim.
Okay, let's go.
Mike Myers had never thought of, considered writing and making a Casino Royale 1967 type prequel to the film and its 2 sequels. The prequel would have most likely taken place in the early 1960s, several years before Austin and Dr. Evil were frozen, and it details Austin at the beginning of his career as a secret agent and his first battle with Dr. Evil. So it kind of finds its way in the end, but just to reiterate the opening sentence, Mike Myers had never thought of, considered writing and making a Casino Royale type prequel.
Yeah, so it's saying he never did, this was never going to happen.
And then the piece of trivia goes on to relay what also never would have happened.
Yeah, what this person just came up with and is based on nothing.
Yeah, this person's doing a continue the franchise. They're like, what if they made a prequel? Maybe I could add this to IMDb. So that's the first piece that I was just like, can we not have this on IMDb, please?
Did you make sure to not find it interesting?
I didn't, but I don't. So the next one, I guess this makes me feel dumb because I can't believe I found this out on a IMDb trivia board. And I googled it to make sure it was accurate. Dr. Evil's trademark gesture of an extended pinky finger held to the corner of his mouth. So that's his trademark gesture. The name of the muscle, did you know this? The name of the muscle which extends the pinky finger in your hand is called the extensor digiti minimi.
Do you reckon they planned that?
I don't know. That's a legitimate. Did they plan that?
It's unknown if this was intentional.
The mini-me works whether you know that or not.
It's going to be entirely intentional. I mean, coincidental.
Or if it's they found that out and then were like, oh, we should add a character to the sequel called Mini-Me.
Or maybe they'd planned having a character called Mini-Me. In the second one, we'll hold it for the second one. And they're like, okay, we're looking for a gesture for Dr. Evil.
Yeah, that's crazy though, and it's true. It's like it's not just the pinky finger; it's like every finger, but you would use it to do it, and it's spelled M-I-N-I-M-I, so Minami.
Right, so it's not even trivia,
isn't it?
No, it is.
All right, now as we teased so saucily earlier on in the episode, we're going to be continue the franchise. We're going to be talking sequel ideas. We're going to be talking other ways that the series was continued. So despite these days feeling very much like a product of their time and, in my opinion, a completed little package, the Austin Powers franchise has made more than one attempt to continue on. In a weird case of production hell, talk of a fourth film has been floating around Hollywood since 2005 and was most recently brought up by Myers this year. That's nuts.
Yeah,
there's no like
officially confirmed this year, apparently.
Yeah, but over the years he's been talking about it, and there's no conceivable reason why it hasn't happened yet, at least from what I could find. It just hasn't.
Yeah.
There's nothing blocking it. They're just like, oh yeah, we're working on it.
That's crazy.
Because 2005 would have been the time to bring it out.
Yeah, because there was talk of it being Dr. Evil centric, eh?
Yep, so that's the only real nugget of information that's persisted over the years, is that apparently a fourth film would focus on Dr. Evil and maybe his son more than Austin. Myers has also suggested that a fourth film would feature some kind of tribute to Vern Troyer, who of course passed away this year.
Yes. Suicide, I believe.
Yeah, real, because there was an attempt, and then months later, he did it. I'm trying to be sensitive, but I don't want to be like he did it for real. I don't know what the right way to say that is there. I just quickly, Vern Troyer's great in these films as well.
Yeah, he is, and he's like,
so
I remember
good.
when The Love Guru came out, because that was like his next kind of film afterwards. They were like, they came out with the idea of Mini-Me being this like silent character before they cast Vern Troyer, and then they were like, we did him such a disservice. We didn't realize how funny he is. And then so they made The Love Guru as like almost like a Vern Troyer vehicle to like give him a character to be able to like actually flex his vocal chops.
Well, apparently Mini-Me would have revealed he can talk in the fourth one as well. So,
oh, nice.
But obviously he won't be in it now. I was thinking a way to rectify that would be to make like Maxi-Me or Major-Me and get like the guy who plays the Mountain on Game of Thrones to like shave his head and be Dr. Evil clone who's way bigger than him.
That's great.
That's a free one, Mike Myers, if you're listening. Yeah, so Myers has reprised the role of specifically Dr. Evil a few times. This furthermore feeds into the theory that he's his favourite character. He appeared in the opening monologue of an SNL episode in 2014 where he's talking about the movie The Interview, and in that he's like, if you really want to bomb a cinema, just do what I did and release The Love Guru. And I was like, hey. And also earlier this year he made two appearances, I think it's only been two, on Jimmy Fallon, where he comments on the fractured political state of the world.
Yeah, like the most recent
2018.
one was like less than a month ago. I think it was on
Yeah,
election day.
Yeah, it was the midterms. Yeah.
Yeah.
He makes a bunch of parallels between him and Trump, ending with make the world evil again. And in I think the most recent one, or maybe it's the first one, he ends it with singing the Baby Shark song, which I'd find cringy, but if it wasn't already established that trying to be cool and up with the current lingo is like a personality trait of Dr. Evil, like, there's that scene in the second one where he's like, talk to the hand because the face ain't listening, and it's all like no one's.
Yeah, it's in the
like,
part.
what are you
Yeah,
doing?
it's before it came out, and so
and there's also the jokes with like him not understanding the value of $1 million, and a bunch of his plans are like convince the world that Prince Charles cheated on his wife and stuff.
oh yeah, that's
that
a great
literally
scene
happened.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also naming things, like names of things that already exist, like the Alan Parsons Project.
Yeah.
Preparation H.
The only other significant continue the franchise note is that in 1999, an animated series was going to be made by HBO. It was supposed to happen after the release of the first film, but was eventually shelved.
That would work.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I agree. I could even see the art style.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So personally, I don't think they should make a fourth film. I can't imagine it would feel at home these days. And I kind of like the trilogy, the little bite-sized trilogy that the Austin Powers series is. I'm sure a way to get around the dated nature of the series would be if like a conversation about how Austin's behavior wouldn't fly in a post-Me Too era. And this could, as you said before, could include time travel. Maybe he goes into the future, into now from the past, and it's all different. But at the same time, it's a good thing that we live in a place where you can't spank your female co-workers. So,
yeah, and it would be funny, and maybe this is my continue the franchise, like because there's talk of like a Doctor Evil, and I think a way to get around the 3-film perfect package thing as well is to make it like clearly a spin-off, like it's called Doctor Evil and whatever, but where like it's Doctor Evil having to deal with the fact that there's no Austin Powers because he's been like put away because of all this like sexual misconduct.
No
and so now
longer
it's
relevant.
like what a villain is to do when there's no good guy to fight.
It's a good idea. Very Megamind.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't be surprised if we saw it like parody the like shift in Bond movies from like campy to dark and gritty.
Yeah. Because
but maybe that's a bit too.
Yeah, Daniel
intense for
Craig
the
said
series.
that like Austin Powers is the reason they had to go dark and gritty.
Pretty much. He said it ruined.
Yeah, he said
James
because
Bond,
those
but-
fucking Austin Power movies.
But good,
Yeah, you made the best one because of it.
Yeah. And also, I wonder if like something like Kingsman is today's answer to Austin Powers.
Yeah.
So instead of pitching full sequels, I thought one fun thing we could do for this episode of Continue the Franchise would be to go through the remaining James Bond titles and come up with a parody of them and maybe a little, log line of what the film could be about.
Okay.
Obviously, I've omitted The Spy Who Loved Me and Goldfinger from this list, as they've all obviously already been done. And also Octopussy I haven't included because
It's already ridiculous.
well, yeah, and the film within a film in Goldmember is called Austin Pussy.
Nice.
So they've ostensibly done Octopussy.
Okay.
All right, so Dr. No.
Doctor, yeah, baby.
I thought Dr. No means no, and that's your conversation about how times have changed. From Russia with Love.
From yeah, baby. No.
He just did this for everyone. Could be like from Russia with Groove, from Russia with Shagadelic, that kind of thing. Oh, this is going off the rails on the second film.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, like from Russia with free love.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. There you go. What would that one be about? Can you think of anything?
Well, I mean, they have to go to Russia.
Putin's got to make an appearance. Putin and Dr. Evil hang out.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Thunderball, got to be Thunderballs, right?
Yeah.
You Only Live Twice.
Yeah, they shagged twice.
Yeah, I thought that as well. It's obviously You Only Shag Twice. Or is there another? What other like terminology could we use in place of live? Oh, other than shag.
You only ejaculate on.
On me twice. On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
On Her Majesty's chest.
On Her Majesty's Secret Cervix. On Her Majesty's On Her Majesty's chest is a good. That's good. I like that
because it's also it's one of those like it's very dirty, but like the words involved aren't dirty.
Yeah, exactly. Like Goldmember.
Yeah.
Diamonds Are Forever. This feels like it should be easy, but at the same time, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, it's because
you just go something are forever.
Yeah, this is one where you would have it be revealed, like be like jewels are forever, and that's referring to like the family jewels.
Yeah, or like what's a word that Austin Powers uses for woman? Be like babes are forever, hot babes are forever, that kind of thing.
Babes.
Sexy boobies are forever. Live and Let Die.
Have you got one?
It'll be like live and let, shag and let shag, shag and let die, or something like that. Well, that kind of sounds kind of dark, actually.
Shag and then let them die.
Yeah. The Man with the Golden Gun. I mean, you could do the Man with the Golden Dick and just be it.
Dick.
The Return of Goldmember.
Yeah.
Moonraker. You go like full moon, Boo Breaker.
You're so excited about that.
For Your Eyes Only. For your jubblies only. There you go. I'm trying to pull from the terminology used in the series. A View to a Kill.
View to a Shag.
A View to a Shag. The Living Daylights. Just the shagging day, the living shag lights. Because then you got License to Kill as well, and we all know it'd be License to Shag.
He gets his license to shag revoked.
Yeah. Well, why would that happen?
Well, yeah, no, like he's been shagging too much, so he's like no longer allowed to shag to get information.
Yeah.
And so that's like his, that's his bag, baby.
That's his bag. GoldenEye. Again.
Golden member.
Golden member, yeah. Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Shags.
There's too many of these for this to be an original joke through the whole thing. Tomorrow Never Dies. Come on, there's got to be like, what word could you replace tomorrow with? Like Mojo Never Dies.
Oh,
or something
yeah.
like
Mojo,
yeah.
good one.
The World Is Not Enough. Hot Girls Is Not Enough.
The world is not her muff.
Very good. The world is not a muff. Die Another Day. Shag another day, I guess.
Yeah.
We're not. That just, whenever there's a verb.
Yeah.
It just feels. Casino Royale. Oh. This is gonna be hard.
Yeah.
What, like,
I feel like Royale you could change.
Shag Pad Royale? No, you could do it. You could do like Man Pad Royale or
Yeah.
Club Royale.
Yeah, Studio 69 Royale.
Yeah. Quantum of Solace. There's got to be like a real good soul ass. Quantum of Soul Ass. And then we got Skyfall. Shagfall. Sky Shag. And it's set in the air, and they just bang on a plane. And Spectre.
Scepter, and it's referring to his penis.
Oh, very good. Right, well, that wasn't very good at all. I thought that would be easier than it was. Thank you for listening to that tedious rundown of probably why they haven't continued to make more.
Yeah. He's just waiting for the perfect
Powers
one.
movies.
You can have On Her Majesty's secret chest. On Her Majesty's chest. For
that's
free.
the best one, I think, that we got. But maybe No, I'm not going to look through them again. All right, I should have written down all of these ahead of time and like thought of one as a backup. Sorry for that, everybody. Thank you for listening.
I think that's some of our best content.
There you go. That brings us to the end of our conversation about Austin Powers, Richard.
Oh no!
Oh, but I don't want it to end. So was it worth it? You know, all this time you've wanted to cover Austin Powers for all these years.
Yeah, I think this is still. We had fun.
We did have fun, and I hope you had fun as well.
I did.
Everybody. Remember to hashtag spread the cult, something I should have said at the start of this episode, and tell 2 friends about this podcast. And we'll tell you what we're doing for next franchise in just a second. But before we do that, I just want to quickly remind you to visit us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, cultpopture.com you can go to, or you can email us at cultpopturemedia@gmail.com. And if you loved us, then consider donating to our Patreon. Join the cult, and you can get exclusive podcasts every month. Two exclusive podcasts per month. And you can also vote on what ones we do. Richard, do you want to explain the crazy thing we're doing next fortnight?
All right. So you guys know Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're doing a crazy Christmas special where we're getting... so next week you're going to be getting a triple episode of Film Franchise Fortnights where we're going to be covering...
Well, in 2 weeks, not
next week. 2 weeks. Next episode. You're going to be getting 3 two-film franchises with 3 very special guests. Who are those guests, AJ?
Those guests, for the first time, breaching a rule that we talked about on the Q&A episode, we've actually reached out to 3 of our most diehard fans of the show.
Well, don't say that when you're referring to a Christmas episode, AJ.
And they are going to watch these films and come on and sort of show how well they know Film Franchise Fortnights by pairing off against the 2 experts on it, I guess. So yeah, these are, we've got 3 fans. Eric, Craig, and Brent, who have been either listening for a while or are they're all patrons as well, and they all comment and have been supporters for a long while. So we wanted to express our gratitude for that by bringing them on, because a lot of people ask us that when they become fans of the show. They'll be like, "Oh, and if you ever discuss this, I'd love to come on." And it's like, it's not really how we do it, but but you know, it's Christmas, so maybe this can be something we do regularly every Christmas or every holiday or something.
And we'll be making a special announcement at the end of that episode as well.
Are we?
I believe we are.
What's the announcement?
Well, I'll save it for the end of next episode.
Just tell me now, I'll bleep it out. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Alright, that wasn't as special as I think. That's not that exciting, is it?
Oh, well, should we just... Well,
no, we'll save it.
We'll save it.
Yeah, so the films that we're going to be covering on the triple episode are the 2 Gremlins films, the 2 Jingle All the Way films. That's right, there's 2 of them. I've seen both of them. And the 2 Bad Santa films. So all Christmas duologies to get in for the festive season.
Yay!
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our discussion about Austin Powers. And please tell us what you think. And you know what? Stay groovy, babies.
Yeah.
Can we make our fans, can we call them...
Groovy babies.
Call them groovy babies instead of cult members. Change
All right,
all our
groovy
Patreon tiers to groovy babies. All right, groovy babies. What's up, groovy babies? All right. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next week on another episode of the Cult Popture podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby. Very shagadelic.